Hi, and welcome to Dollars and Making Sense, a weekly show about finance, money, and investing. I'm your host, Ray Treverson from OTG Capital. We broadcast locally on Radio Northern Beaches and around Australia on the Community Radio Network, compliments of the Community Broadcasting Association of Australia. That's a network of roughly 450 stations. We're on about 10, 12, 15 or so. So thank you very kindly to those regional stations that take our feed. We really appreciate it. We're also multimedia. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeartRadio and a whole range of different places. I now have a social media manager that does TikTok for me. Totally don't understand it, but I understand we get lots and lots of hits from that, so that's good as well. So I'm welcoming back to the microphone and camera Queen Chilenga, who is a financial social worker that's doing money education and coaching to promote financial wellness in the community. Now, this is part 2 of an interview that we commenced, and we are talking about when couples fight over money. Wow, what a topic to get into. It's very controversial, and I know that when we did the first show, we're going to get lots of response, and we're now going to kick into part 2. Now, Queen, the study that you sent me, which is from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships 2023, when couples fight about money, what do they fight about? We talked a lot about themes, and so one of the things that really took my interest is spending behaviors, and this will certainly bear out when couples start doing things together. So what's this all about? So spending compatibility. I mean, people talk about personal compatibility, physical compatibility, but now we're talking about financial compatibility. Is that a thing?
It is a thing. So when we talk about money, there's, I think, 5 money behaviors. We're talking about earning, we're talking about spending, we're talking about saving, we're talking about giving, investing. I think investing is the other one. I have to go do my reading again. So spending is one of the behaviors when we talk about money. And yes, there is a thing as, financial compatibility as well, because look, we all grew up differently and we all manage money differently. Some of us, as soon as we earn the money, the next day we are at the shops and spending it. Some of us, when we earn the money, we are calculating and we are saving. So it is really important for people that are courting or wanting to get married or that are engaged or those that are married to be able to understand the spending behaviors of your spouse, whether they spend more or they save more. And that can really help the household budget to either improve or go backwards, because then you'll find that there's one person that wants to save money and then there's another person that wants to spend the money. So how can we support each other as a couple to be compatible so that we can improve our financial wellness of the family? One of the things that I talk about, it is true that opposite attracts. And also, it is true that we can work together even though we are not compatible. I am a firm believer, if the family has a money goal and they both agree, then they can work together, regardless whether they spend more, the other person spends more or spends less. I'm not sure if I've answered the question, but I think I have.
Well, put it this way. One of the things that, again, after 36 years of marriage and, been on the planet for over 6 decades now, one of the things that I guess, I think opposites can attract. I'm just wondering, though, in the rule of averages and statistics, I'm a great lover of statistics and numbers because I'm in finance and investing, and the numbers don't lie. And when people talk about opposites attracting, I often look at it and go, it's like a volcano. You get these great sparks and it's fabulous, but then when it all calms back down again, you just got a lot of molten rock and, people aren't necessarily happy. I'm just curious, though, do opposites really attract, and can couples who are diametrically opposed in their spending habits really go the distance? I mean, I'm not talking 5 or 6 years. I'm talking 15, 20 plus that, again, just through experience. Is that going to work, or do they really need to maybe do some prenuptial training and get finance ready as a couple before they actually go down the aisle?
I think one of the things that I always say, we all have weaknesses, and it's important as a couple to identify which money weakness you have and your spouses or your partner. That way you can help each other together. the behaviors or the money habits that we've accumulated throughout our life as we are getting to the point of marriage, we can't change them in a day. Identifying them, I think, is a key. Once you identify that, and then you are willing to work towards it. I think the problem becomes, let's say, for example, I'll give myself an example. My husband and I, let's say I am a spender, and the problem or the habit has been identified in this household. I have to be willing to change my spending habits to live within the budget, the household's budget means, instead of me just continuing on the behavior of spending and not wanting to learn to manage my spending so that we can live within our means. So it's unfair to the family if I'm continuing to spend money when I know that the family hasn't got money. And that's where the problem comes in. Because then the more money the other person is spending, the more stress you are causing to your spouse. Because then they're worried, we don't have enough money, and then she goes and spends all this money. And then that creates conflicts and problems in the relationship. So provided they're opposite, but they are willing to work towards their weaknesses, I think it could work. And they have to have the similar financial goals. I think that's the key.
So in your work as a financial social worker, are there simple exercises that when couples come in and seeking your help, are there simple exercises that you take them through that help them identify what kind of, spender, saver, what kind of financial person they are?
So one of the things that I always say, the person is the expert of their own life. They know their own problems, so they have to be able to identify what the situation is. So for example, if the couple, they've identified one person is spending more money, and the other person wants to save money for this and this and this for the household, we start talking to the person, like together, the couple, you sit with the couple together and start talking about, okay, what is the family goal here? Are you guys wanting to save money because you want to save money for the house, or you just want to continue spending? So it's important for them to identify what the problem is for us to, before I start telling them how to resolve it. So once we've identified the problem, then we can start tackling the problem. And spending is a big part, especially in Kalgoorlie. People earn so much money, and then the idea of saying, oh no, next fortnight I'll get paid, but then you have to, sometimes I have to be brutal with people. What if you break your leg tomorrow and you can't go to work? Like, you have to be honest sometimes with people. Like, you are spending all this money now. What if this comes up? What if your car breaks down? What if your child gets sick or they break their arm, they need an operation ASAP? So you have to be thinking about the worst case scenario where you will need money. This is why your wife wants you to save money, or this is why your husband is saying, let's save some money in the emergency fund for things when they come.
When you're counselling couples, you're trying to bridge gaps, I guess, in understanding to gain compromise. Is that successful most of the times?
It's difficult at the beginning. So mostly I don't do formal counseling. I will just be doing like money coaching and informal conversation in counseling and stuff like that. So the compromise in a relationship, I think, is a big thing, not only with money, but with everything else. So for example, when you just get married at the beginning of your relationship, you don't fully really know the person that you're married to. You begin to learn about them as years go by, and then you begin to understand them. So it's the same with money habits as well. You begin to learn the money habits of your spouse. The longer you stay with them, then you know, oh, this is how this person spends money. However, though, you have to compromise. So for example, I'll give an example, and this is my own lived experience example that I'm sharing, and this has happened to me. So I'm one person that likes to save everything, because when I moved to Australia, I was an international student and money was tight. So every time I have money, I'm thinking about, oh, I gotta save for this. My husband, on the other hand, is different. When we have money, he wants to spend, okay, we've earned this money, we need to pay ourselves so we can buy this for ourselves. On the other hand, me, I grew up where I like everything I have to calculate before I spend money. I have to think 3 or 4 times before I spend it. So he's taught me, like, it is okay for you, Queen, to spend money on yourself when you have extra. So I've learned a little bit from him as well to spend money, not just saving money all the time, because of my lived experience and how money was difficult at the beginning of my journey. So that has really helped me. And then also I've learned to compromise and just say, you know what, you've worked so much. We have a surplus budget. If you take $200 and go and buy the gadget that you want, because you like to buy gadgets, to go and buy the gadget that you want, it's not going to hurt our budget. So I've also learned to compromise and allow him to spend money on the things that he wants to spend money, provided we've had a look at our budget and we are in a good place. He can go and spend that money, and it's okay.
And just before we go to our break, Queen, when you're talking about budget and the like, how often do you recommend your couples that come and see you sit down and not just do the budget, but then actually go back and look at it again?
I always tell people it's good to have a debt with your money. Like, you need to go out with your money so you can look at your money situation. Creating time to have a look at it, it will help you as you move along. So for me, my suggestion, again, it's the household with how they earn the money and how they spend the money. But if you can review your budget on a monthly basis, I think it will do you good, because then in that month you've reviewed it, you've had a look at it, you know where you're sitting, you will improve what you're going to do next in the next month. Whether, let's say, if this month it's August, this month's budget is a deficit, you know that next month in September, you're not spending a lot of money to go wherever or to eat takeaway, because you've had a look. This is where we are now. This is how we're going to live. So reviewing it monthly, it's a good idea. If you can quarterly, if you don't have the time, but I encourage people to look at their budget as often as they can, because it paints a picture of where they're sitting financially.
Good advice. So look, we're about half time. You're here on Dollars Making Sense, a weekly show about finance, money and investing. I'm really pleased to have at the microphone today Queen Chilenga. She is with, got to keep going back to it, Glow Thrive Hub. Glow, not grow. I keep getting the R and the L. Glow Thrive Hub. And we're going to take a short break and we'll be back in just a moment. Hi, and thank you for listening to Dollars and Making Sense, a weekly radio program about finance, money and investing on Radio Northern Beaches and nationally on the Community Radio Network around Australia. The views, comments and opinions aired during our program should not be construed or viewed as financial advice. Any commentary is general advice only and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation or needs. You should consider whether the advice is suitable for you and your personal circumstances. If in doubt, you should contact an authorised licensed financial planner. We welcome questions and feedback, and you can get in touch with us via our blog, social media channels or email. Please search for Dollars and Making Sense in your favourite podcast platform or check out our blog at otgcapital.com.au/blog. Hi, and welcome back to Dollars and Making Sense, a weekly show about finance, money and investing. I'm your host, Ray Treverson. I'm really pleased to have at the microphone Queen Chilenga. She is a financial social worker that's doing money education and coaching to promote financial wellness in her local community of Kalgoorlie. She runs a business called Glow and Thrive Hub. That website, glowthrivehub.com.au. Now, we've been talking about in the past show and today's show is all about when couples fight over money. Now, we've talked quite a long way around themes and around, the idea of, it's usually when there's a shortage of money. We've also talked about conflict and the fact that conflict can actually be good and positive, because I certainly know when we have an argument at home, a lot of good stuff comes out. Sometimes you need to do a bit of a purge and, vent and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that I wanted to now move on to, Queen, is to talk about, what the daily dynamic in a household. And I'm talking about things like control of the purse, domestic duties, and I guess this concept of fairness, given, particularly if couples are earning disparate amounts of money. In your experience, in the counselling that you do day by day, what are your thoughts on this concept of fairness and how it plays out in the discussions that you have?
Yeah, and look, majority of the time, it looks like the person who earns money should have more say in what the household does with the money. And that is, in my opinion, that is not fair, because if this household is one team, I feel like everyone in the team has equal rights. They are all the same, on the same level, regardless of how much money they earn or which household duties that they do at the house. Because for example, I'll give an example. Let's say it's a mom, she's now at home with the baby and dad is the one working. Dad is going to work to earn the money. Mom is staying home to care for the family. Both of them, in their own right, whatever that they're doing is work. However, though, one is working with a contract at work and is getting paid. The one at home hasn't got a contract. So mom is at home. If we could sign up a contract to pay mom for the job that she does, from the income that dad earns, that also can be looked at as work. So there is sometimes an imbalance, and it's not the unfairness of, because the person who is at home, just because they are home, they're not working. And I remember growing up, my mom would get upset. I wish I could speak to you guys in my language. So my dad would come from work, and then I'd be like, "Oh, how have you guys been resting?" I don't know. I'm not sure if I've translated it properly.
Sure.
Like, my mom would get so upset. Who said that we were resting? Because we were working as well, But then the assumption, just because you haven't left the household, you haven't gone to work, doesn't mean that you're not working. So everyone in the family works, and it's important for all the people involved in the household, the husband and the wife, they can control the pace, because yes, one is going out there to bring an income in. The other one is coming home. The other one that's at home is caring for your home. So when you come from work, you've got a clean environment, you've got a happy family. They're both working. It's just seen differently.
Yeah, I have to say, I come from a multicultural background. My mum and dad are Italian, and the very traditional 1950s type of scenario of the woman staying at home and the dad being the breadwinner was very prevalent in my house, except it just didn't work because mum also had to have a job. Dad actually had two jobs. And so, the raising of the kids, it really, it brought home some very home truths around fights over money. And again, fairness was always one of those aspects. Now, interestingly, the source material we've been using also uses social media as a source of much of its study, and they use Reddit. Again, a fascinating study tool, because when you look at what Reddit is and the kind of people that attracts, I sometimes question the validity of using that as necessarily a source. But we've always talked about distribution and fairness. And again, do you think that in your experience that's primarily where a lot of the fighting occurs, if there's a big disparity between one earner compared to the person either staying at home or earning a part-time wage instead of a full-time wage?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, and I'll call it the power struggle, because then it looks like the one that's earning more money has power than the one that's earning less. However, though, like I said earlier, I think I was talking about how we are one team and there is nothing like the breadwinner in the family. Everyone is a breadwinner in their own right with whatever work that they're doing or whatever income that they're bringing. So the fights come about when there's this misunderstanding or misconception of saying, oh, because I'm the one that's earning more money, I can make the decision. And in my culture, I saw that a lot, especially with men. Predominantly men are the ones going to work. Mom stayed at home. Yes, mom did businesses here and there, but dad was the one that was working, and dad would make the money decision more. And sometimes mom would not even have a say. And you can even see that even in other aunties and uncles and stuff like that. And it's sad to see, because then the wife also has a big part that they play in the other things that they do, only that it's not paid, only that it's not contracted. Like, this is how much you'll be earning when you stay home with the kids or when you clean the dishes.
Yeah. I'm curious, again, given that you have a business surrounded by and based on doing financial counseling, do you see value in doing prenuptial financial training? So in other words, getting couples before they get married to sit down and do some compatibility exercise. I know church groups, for example, priests will sit down and have prenuptial training around a whole range of spiritual aspects. But do you think the same thing around finance would be a good thing?
I think so. So I would just say that I'm not a financial counselor. I am a financial social worker. So
my apologies.
That's okay. So every time when I'm talking to people, even couples about money, and recently I talk about it with young people that are in relationship. What I talk about is more so educational. And if they're needing any financial advice, I do refer them to go and see a financial advisor. And like what you said in terms of nuptial training before marriage, it's really important to learn about money and to also sit down and have a conversation about money, because like it or not, as a couple or as people, you have to deal with money. So having those money conversation before you enter into marriage or enter into a relationship, it's really good to have a look at it, because we have to be honest and realistic with life. Life does happen and things happen in different ways. So having some knowledge and having some certainty on how things will pan out when things happen, it's really good to know. And also learning our money behaviors and how we think about money from each other is really helpful, because I always say, look, your weakness can be my strength, and I can learn from your weaknesses and you can learn from my strength. So as a couple as well, at the beginning of the relationship, if you've talked about money and you've identified your weakness is spending, Queen, and then Regan's weakness is saving money, he can help me, and yes, it will take time, but he can be helping me in that area so that I can improve my area of weakness. Because then if we don't talk about it and we don't know them, when we enter into marriage or when we enter into relationship, it becomes an issue. But then if you know about it, okay, I already know that Queen spends money, I forgive her, we'll just talk about it. Next time, don't spend the money again before we pay rent, because you already know about the problem. So I think they're very important to have before marriage.
Okay, I guess one of the things that I always like to leave people with some really good key takeaways. The actual study paper that we've based a lot of today and our previous show's discussion on, we're going to post a link about that. And I'll just repeat that for the listeners. It's the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, and the article was published in 2023, which again is a fascinating time, because we already had by that stage close to 3 years of living under the pandemic. And wow, wasn't that a time when couples all of a sudden found out all about cohabitating because they couldn't get away from each other. And, money for many, many people was tight. Queen, again, I'm pretty sure you guys mentioned this. We always make a big point about moneysmart.gov.au. It's a fabulous financial resource. It's free. Yep. Now, you mentioned before financial planners. I'd love to be able to say to people listening to the show, please go and see your financial planner. The problem is that they're going to want you to have a lot of money and have at least $5,000 to give them. And so I think practically speaking, couples that are first starting out, that's not going to be a practical place for them to go. And so I think there's some great resources, and also family can be good. Maybe not the drunk uncle that in the corner of the barbecue on Christmas day, but certainly from that perspective. I'm just curious, on your own website, Queen, the glowthrivehub.com.au, what kind of resources do you have there that people can go and have a look at?
I'm just setting up the website. I haven't gotten the resources yet there, but like one of the tools that I had written down here, what you've talked about is Money Smart. Money Smart is one of the tools that I use even in my workshops as well. I put it as one of the resources that people can use. It has so much information that you can learn about different things. You can learn about budgeting, you can learn about saving, you can learn a little bit about investing and stuff like that. So using those resources, very helpful. I also say like using your local bank as well on their website. Banks also have like good education information that you can use. So helpful. Like if you go there, you'll be able to see different topics that you can learn that are relatable to your money situation. One of the things that I always say is financial stress is real, and dealing with money can be very stressful, but it's something that we can manage as a community as well, not avoiding the problem. So having money conversation in the household, no matter how bad the situation is, no matter how good the money situation is, just having a conversation about it, I think it's a step to getting better with money and also improving your financial wellness as well.
Yeah, I think you've made some valuable points. The other thing I might mention as well, for couples that are a little bit further along down the path, we often have Justin Bott, who is the Media Information Officer for Services Australia, or you may know them better as Centrelink.
Yep. Yes, Centrelink. Yep.
And one of the wonderful things Justin always tells me about, and we keep on making a big thing about as well, is that Services Australia has a financial helpline as well. And it's not just if you're in trouble. I think they, just like the ATO and just like Money Smart, have some great resources, ladies and gents, that I would point you towards. And they also at Services Australia have called a Financial Information Officer, so an FIS. And I think they use speech recognition, which I'm not a big fan of, because even though I used to sell the stuff many, many years ago, it's not always perfect. But if you call up their call centres, you can get through and get to a Financial Information Services Officer, and they can certainly help. And Money Smart, you rightly said, Queen, they've got budgets, they've got spreadsheets, lots of really good things. So any final thing that you'd like to say before we sign off, Queen?
If you are having money struggles, don't suffer in silence, because financial stress is real. Go seek help. So there's so many resources, and financial counseling is a free service. Financial counselors out there, they're there to help you and support you. So seek help. Don't suffer in silence. That's me.
Wonderful. Great message, Queen. Lifeline is also another good resource.
Yes.
If you're financially stressed. Wonderful, wonderful people. Queen, that's the end of our time. Amazing how quickly the time goes. Thank you so kindly for being on Dollars and Making Sense.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.